for the purpose of the sort of the interview, let's say, really it's just a chat and really kind of showcasing your work and what you do, because you know your work is phenomenal. You really do a great job helping people, supporting people, and the tools that you use again are so important. I mean, you know, I can speak first class, first hand from that, and first class of course. How great, you know, your work is, and how it's inspired me to do different work and change things around. So I'm going to stop talking. As you know, I like to talk a lot. Can you just introduce yourself, just sort of who you are, and just give a flavour for the work that you do?
So that's a really hard question to start with, I think. Because how do you introduce yourself when you've been doing this for so long? You know what I mean? So I think what I would start with is that what I do has come from a really long line of a lifetime, really. When I think about it, no turn in my life when I look back, I go, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have done that. So when I'm thinking about like the 15 years that I had a corporate career, you know, it totally informs, more so I think than even my psychology degree in depth psychology, because I relate to what's going on in the world and what people are dealing with. So I guess to start there, I did 15 years in corporate, and with a focus of changing the organization into something that wasn't soul sucking. I mean, I was in that perspective from like the beginning. And so I started in accounting, and then I went into computers, and then I went into process improvement, and then I got into coaching. And that's basically how I was like, wait a minute here. The problem that I'm constantly seeing isn't the structure, it's the structure inside the human, which then led me into getting a degree in Jungian psychology and depth psychology.
Yeah, wow. Absolutely, wow. So all that life experience and all that sort of like self sort of understanding and the whole process, and working in corporate, and then finding you and what you want to do and your passion. So what you said, you were in corporate for 15 years, and when did you set up in your own work? When did you decide that, you know, life coaching, all the range of coaching that you do was for you? Big question.
Yeah, so that one I have a really good answer for, because I think because I was chasing maybe utopia inside corporations, I really thought that if we just get this organization, the structure right, that people will thrive. I've always felt that way. And so I just kept chasing it down until I got into coaching. And I have 2 years of different certifications in coaching programs, and just kept finding that it wasn't right yet. At the same time, I was starting to get depressed. The oppression of the soul within corporate, when you get to a certain level, mostly as females, we start to look, wait a minute, I'm going to have to sell my soul to the devil. Do I really want to do that? And I was getting more and more depressed. And so I'm not sure that my conscious ego made the choice, but my soul certainly made the choice, because when 9/11 hit, I had a wake-up call, and I just went, you are not on your soul path. And so at that point, I left corporate depressed, and quickly enrolled in the depth psychology program, because I saw that coaching, the 2 programs that I was going through, or one that I had already gone through and another one that I was going through, wasn't really answering the problem of the unconscious. And so that's why I went into depth psychology. And then I went, oh, I hit pay dirt.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that's a massive transformation, you know, from one job to another. I mean, absolutely. Totally different sort of like sector, different values, belief, philosophy, all the things that your soul was kind of wanting and yearning for. Well, what would you say to people that kind of don't think about soul, or, you know, sometimes when I'm speaking to people and I talk about the soul and they go, oh, what do you mean about the soul? And I'm talking about intelligent people here. I'm not talking about, you know, a couple of children or anything like that, or younger people. I'm talking about adults. And what would you say is the soul? What would you say how our soul speaks to you?
Yeah, so I feel like we are born in this world with our true essence and our true self, and that we're enculturated into a personality structure that is created out of defenses. And the soul is another term for that true self. That's what I would say. And most people, if they have any sense of self-reflection, they probably understand that there's something else to them other than just their personality. And that's how I would kind of approach it.
Okay. One of the things that I use lots when I'm working, I would say, in corporates, because we don't always start off with saying the soul, because we'll get it sort of people looking at us very strangely. But I use the Johari window a lot to introduce that blind side to the self. So people can start to then become self-aware, or as you just said, then to contemplate, to think more deeper about themselves. I find that works well, opening a conversation around much deeper sort of aspects of our personality, or what is the personality, and what is the soul. And I'm just wondering, what tool do you kind of use? I know that you're very intuitive, so you'll intuitively pick up what people will need. But is there any specific tool that you would kind of open with in your sessions?
Well, I open mostly with the Enneagram. That seems to be the tool that people can identify at least the personality structure. They might not know or even have a feeling for the holy idea or the essence that's part of the spiritual part of the Enneagram, but they certainly can recognize, oh my God, yes, that's my fear, that's my desire, that's my superego message, that's my defense mechanism. It's amazing how people can even pick up on their own defense mechanisms now. And so I think that's the first tool. And then when I introduce that, I'm like, I want them first to kind of go, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's me. And then eventually, subversively, I'm like, well, it's actually not you. It's your personality structure. There's some other part of you that's deeper and more profound than that. And that's why I use that tool.
Yeah. I mean, the Enneagram, I love now. I love it. I've studied quite a lot around it as well. And I kind of use that now also with clients, because it's such an insight into, I would say, the blind side of ourselves, linking it to the Johari window. Is there anything, so what would you then progress on to? So just sort of a flavor for your kind of work. So you'd start with the Enneagram, and then where would you sort of like, where would the story go with the client, with one of your clients?
Well, right away, I get into astrology, and the more and more and more and more that I study astrology, the more and more and more I realize I need to study astrology. It's so profound, and so when I introduce the concept of astrology, I'm trying to help a person align with the essence of who they are in an even deeper way than the Enneagram. The Enneagram is kind of a gestalt. It's kind of like more of an umbrella. But as you start to get into the real specifics of a person's natal chart and look at the archetypes that are behind that natal chart, and then look at the transits, which are where the planets are now, and those are like portals activating soul lessons. So as you start to really look at the astrology from the perspective of this is your soul's, lesson plan for your life, that's what I try to introduce people to.
I like the way you've said that, lesson plan for your life, because I know the astrology side of it, I kind of didn't embrace when I first kind of started working with you, but I have now, and it makes so much more sense. I think again, what I like about your work is that you're very intuitive. So you will let your clients lead you where they need to go on their journey. And for me, the astrology part was kind of like, oh, do I want to know about that? And I can just have a look at my my graph, let's say, or have a look at my daily horoscope or my yearly horoscope, but not get to the depths of it. And I'm starting to do that now because I kind of went on a different plan. But I like the way you said that life lesson, you know, sort of that's a real sort of, I think, nibble for people to think, okay, what is astrology? I really like that, then to dive in, because it is a heavy subject. It's a very, very heavy subject. And I know that you follow quite a few astrologers or that study or teach astrology. And I'm just wondering, is there any one that you would recommend for anybody to kind of look at if they're interested to sort of find out more?
Well, I would want people to find the astrologer that they most align with. So I'll just speak for myself. I very much like Pam Gregory's work out of the UK. She does an amazing job of bringing astrology into the way it needs to be used now. Astrology has been all over the map in the last 50 years or so. It's been predictive and like, tell me if I'm going to find the man of my life, or, you know, where it's been used in that way. But as we start to marry astrology and psychology, particularly depth psychology, you can use it for how do I use this particular archetype that we're going through right now and hit it at a higher frequency rather than the lower sort of ego personality frequency. And Pam Gregory speaks to that. Heather Ensworth, who's on YouTube as well, she's my teacher. And I follow her very, very closely. I'm learning, I'm in an advanced class with her now, and I'm just blown away by the information that I'm getting. I actually like Brecca Goldsmith. I love her sort of channeling the Pleiadians and kind of and bringing that in with the astrology. I think Molly McCord is good as well. I think she's a little more practical. Rick Tarnas is my teacher, was my teacher at Pacifica. And so I learned astrology through his book, Cosmos and Psyche, which is like this big. And you can't read that book and not believe in astrology, because he maps it to history, you know, so thousands of years of history. He's like, well, this happened when this happened. And, you know, you can see Saturn, Pluto conjunct, we get COVID, you know, you can see that kind of stuff in astrology now.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So that, I mean, there's a lot that you do. There's a lot of depth and other tools. So I'm just wondering, what other tools would people sort of like expect you to use with them?
Wow, there's so many. I mean, like, so I do dream interpretation, which is kind of standard Jungian psychology. I try to introduce people to the shadow work, which is Jungian psychology. I'll stay with the Jungian psychology. Then there's the marrying of the anima and the animus, the male and the masculine and the feminine. And there's more advanced parts of Jungian psychology, but that's where most people stick, is just sort of allowing for themselves to come to wholeness through reconciling their shadow and reconciling the projections of the other gender that gets projected all over the world. I use IFS, which is internal family systems, for doing inner child work. In that realm, when I'm working with trauma, I'll also work with focusing, which is Eugene Gendlin's work, using the body to understand and start to talk to the unconscious. Back to Jungian work, I'll do active imagination with dream work. I partner with an intuitive psychic artist who does drawings of anything I want her to draw, whether it be somebody's unconscious stuckness, whether it be their astrology, whether it be their Enneagram, whatever it is. I bring her in and she does a drawing, and I know you've experienced that. It's pretty profound.
My drawing is absolutely, I love the drawing I've got, and I'm going to put it into a book. So, and I need to speak to you about that at another time. But yeah, I really, really liked that drawing that I got. It was so profound. And what was for me the drawing was that we were just talking, and she came up with this drawing that she had no idea what it meant. But actually, when I got it, oh my gosh, so many parts of my life were mapped across the whole drawing. So that was really profound for me to receive that and look at it. I was kind of blown away with that. So what would you say, and I know there's not a typical client, but who would you say, what are your clients, who comes to you? I mean, I run my own business, and I've got a coaching business and a training business. So I'm sort of like one type of client that would come to you, and I love working with you. So who else would be drawn to you, to your work?
I think that the people that are drawn to my work are definitely on a soul journey already. I feel like people either have a sense that there's something else to this, to themselves or to the world, and they're looking for that. And that's not an age group. I mean, I can't really identify like, oh, it's these people. The demographics are really hard to, because it's an inner demographics. When I start to think about the demographics of this, it's inner. It's an inner landscape that helps identify who that person is. And I think people searching for meaning, people searching for wanting to live their life on purpose, and to have meaning and to contribute to humanity in some way. People who are looking to, a deep spiritual, what I often call ascension, like, really working on bringing in a new earth. And so using that kind of language, I'm like I'm not way out there, but I am way out there because I really want to work with people who are here to usher in a new age. And that's really, and if you have a calling for that, then that's who I want to help.
Yeah. So what are maybe some of the highs that you've had in business, or any lows that you can share with us?
So I feel like the highs are so sweet and private, and when let's say when a couple comes to me and they're ready to just call it quits, and within a couple of sessions I've turned them around and they're like off. I mean, those are my most, those are the ones, because couples bring problems that are like ready to like just break apart. And when you can put them back together in a couple of 3 sessions, it's magical. And it's really hard work. I mean, the couples work is the hardest work I do, because you've got 2 psyches that are, you're looking at their conscious fight, you're looking at their unconscious fight, you're trying to organize like what's the most important thing that you can speak to that's going to turn this thing around. So I think there's things like that when I walk away from a session and a client really gets the work and really, and then activates it in the world, like you were talking about. I mean, that lights me up so much. I feel, it feels such an honor to be able to be in a person's life the way that I am. I feel, I like pinch myself sometimes because I feel like I'm so lucky to be able to do this work and help people in the way that I do. So those are the highs. I think the lows are also around when, say, I have a client that is struggling, and no matter what I've been able to do, I can't reach them. And that seems to be the real hard part for me.
Okay. Because there will undoubtedly be people that kind of aren't ready, I would sort of say, to really have that deep dive into their soul and to trust and to open up the awareness. And I think that's probably why in the work I do and in the corporates, I use that Johari window, sort of the drip feed with people. But, only they can do it.
That's right.
They really can. Can you just give me, again, another deep question? What have you learned from working for yourself? What have you learned?
Yeah, so I think I've been doing this so long, I forgot what it's like to work for someone else.
Yes.
But I think the most important thing for me is the liberty, the liberation. I'm in 100% control of anything and everything that I do so that I can live my life in alignment with my values and run my business in alignment with my values, which I could not do when I was in corporate. I was always out of alignment. And so I feel, you know, and I also say there was a long period of that it was hard. It was really hard because getting it started, you know, they say, oh, it's going to take you 5 to 7 years to get your business. And I'm like, I've been a business consultant for 15 years. I can do this. No, it did take that long and it was hard. And I think that if you love what you do, don't give up no matter what. Failure isn't an option. Burn the boats, literally. And I think that's another thing that when you realize that you sink or swim based on who you are in your own beingness, keep building that, keep building that, keep building that.
That's a great tip, great suggestion, really is for people. So what, apart from myself, which I could really talk about you all day long, what would be a kind of testimonial, or is there a testimonial from a client that you're really pleased with that you could share?
I feel like the most, if there was a general testimonial that people give, I think it's about the fact that I teach as much as I counsel. I think that people are used to going to counselors or therapists or coaching, maybe more in the therapy realm, and they're being made to feel good. Like, I'm so glad you can feel how I'm feeling, but they're not getting direction. And so many of my clients are just like, you've completely transformed and changed my life because now I can see my soul path. And you've taught me so much. I mean, like, you can see all the books behind me. Everybody's like, what is Dr. Bren reading now, you know? So I feel like it's engaging with people. I think it's teaching them. We've never been taught how the mind works ever. No, we haven't. And so I try to teach people how the mind works. And I think that's also what people are responding to me and being grateful for the fact that that I guide too. Another thing that's kind of a no-no in therapy is like, don't guide. I'm like, well, why are people coming to you if you're not going to guide them? You know? So
absolutely.
I feel like that's part of it. And I think also, I think people generally get how much I care about them. And I think that's what conveys mostly, is that people just know that I just care, deeply care. And I know both of what I've read, but also, as you mentioned, that intuitive knowing. And so if I generalized what people have said in reviews to me, those would be the points.
Yeah, no, again, very, very well put. And with that values and alignment with what you're doing in your business, which, you know, is absolutely so important. And for me, I kind of say to people when they're starting off in business, or when I start the business training with them, is like, year one, you're playing. So play.
Yeah. Right.
And it might be
so true.
If you don't listen to yourself, but you're playing. Year two, you're kind of like, okay, that didn't work, this worked. By year 3, you should have a template, a roadmap where you need to go. And I remember I was working with one client that's starting up a business, and I said that, what's partnership? And both of them went, oh, so glad you said that. We thought we had to have it right in 6 months. And I said, no, because it's new, it's a baby, you're growing it, you're developing it, it's the values, it's the beliefs. I asked you to kind of look at the CEO from Amazon. He's got 10 kind of top tips. And I wondered which one kind of resonated with you. I think you pronounce his first name is Jeff, and you pronounce his second name, I think it's Bezos. So I'm just wondering, have you looked at those 10? What one jumped out at you? Or did any of them?
Well, I would say a few did. And I think the first one was follow your heart, not your head. I feel like if that would be my first. And then I think the next one after that would be focus on the customer.
Yeah.
And maybe one more, and that is maybe two more, focus on your passion.
Yeah.
There must be alignment between your passion and your client and your product. Must be. Because you won't be able to go through the hard times if there's no passion.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. So if people wanted to find out more about you, if they wanted to contact you, where could they find out information about you apart from me, Bren?
My website is perfect. It's Dr. Bren, DRBREN.com, drbren.com.
Okay. And you have got a YouTube channel as well?
I do. I haven't been on it lately, but I do have a YouTube channel. Probably, given all that's going on in the world, I might be starting to shift some of my social media to get off the stuff that is toxic to our world.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I feel like when I'm changing, that's one of the reasons why I've kind of not been putting much on YouTube right now. But I do have a YouTube channel, and that's actually the social media place I go to. The other stuff, the Facebook, the Instagram, all that, I'm not really. LinkedIn, I don't really participate in much of that.
No. So I want to thank you so much for doing this brief interview on WispaWorldWide.com, because the work you do, Bren, is just so heart-moving. It really is. And for me, showcasing your work, showcasing you to others, because you do the real work, I would say. There's lots of people out there, and I'm not going to talk about anybody down because I wouldn't do that, but there are a lot of people out there giving it the big talk, the big marketing PRs, and actually, it's the real work that people really need. So I want to thank you very much, and hopefully you might be able to do another interview with me, where we could talk about the other business, if that would be all right with you.
Love that. Love that. Love that.
Well, thank you very, very much, Bren.